What are you doing tonight? Just chilling with Bae? Huh? Eye roll? I got an eye roll. Some places that would get an applause. Here it gets an eye roll. In this video, we're going to show you how to make the most delicious beef ragu. We're then going to take that ragu, stuff it inside some pizza dough, fold it over, cook it in Roccbox, and make the best ragu calzone the world has ever seen. Maybe. So we're going to start by making the ragu. A ragu is basically kind of a meat stew, really. Bolognese. If you think of a spaghetti bolognese, this is going to be very similar. First off, we need to get some heat. So we've got a pan on a medium-low heat, and we're going to go in with 6 rashers of streaky bacon. I've just cut those into lardons. If you don't have streaky bacon, you can use pancetta. So next up, we're going to cut all our veg. So I've got 1 red onion, 1 clove of garlic. So next up, 1 carrot. And keep an eye on your bacon. Every now and again, you want to give that a little stir. Next up is celery. So we're going to go with 2 sticks of celery. So what we also have with celery, that is often thrown away and discarded, is celery leaves. Now, celery leaves are a great little kind of trick to get more flavour into stuff. Grab a good handful and kind of chop them up as well. Similar size if we can. That's just going to mean it kind of cooks evenly. I like the smell of celery, but my favourite smell, probably the smell of the man that edits these videos, who just smells like heaven spread on toast. That is our veg, so that is our mirepoix. You might see it called a mirepoix in French or a sofrito quite often in Italian. Basically just a mix of veg that is going to act as a base to something delicious. We don't want our bacon to kind of fully crisp up. We're not looking for kind of perfect crispy sandwich bacon. We want it just before it gets to that stage. That's when we want to add our mirepoix. And we're going to add a little splash of oil. And with the veg, we want to season it as well. So we're going to go in with a little pinch of salt, good twist of black pepper. We don't want to go in with too much salt because our bacon's obviously quite salty anyway, or pancetta, whatever you end up using is quite salty. But we do need to add a little bit because that salt's going to help everything sweat rather than fry. One of the key things to bear in mind is time. T-I-M-E, not T-H-Y-M-E, is time. This needs to be slow. This needs to be a labour of love. I mean, I haven't got any friends or hobbies, so I've got nothing else to do. But if you've got friends and hobbies, just get rid of them, sack them off. So the veg is beginning to soften now, smelling really delicious, really lovely smells in here that you can't smell, but you know, hey, internet, what can I do? So we're going to add a couple more layers now. We've got 1 sprig of rosemary. Next up, we've got 1 bay leaf. Our veg is lovely and softened in that lovely bacon fat, and we can now add 500 grams of beef mince. So we're just going to kind of tear this in. And what you'll notice at this point as well is the bottom of your pan will be getting what we call a fond at the bottom. So this kind of brown, caramelizing at the bottom. And that's cool. That's cool because you'll see later when we add the wine, when we add the booze, that's going to pull all that off, and that is just going to be flavour. A massive spoonful of flavour. Just wash your hands, you've been handling raw meat. And that beef will take a little bit of seasoning, so a tiny little pinch of salt. Again, generous amount of pepper. So we just want to season in layers, really. It's like a story. You've got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you should season at the beginning, the middle, and the end. So we're still on a medium-low heat here. We're not trying to fry this meat. We're not trying to kind of seal it or anything like that. It's all about slow. Low and slow. So next up, we're going to add ½ tablespoon of tomato puree. Okay, so I've turned the heat up just a little bit. And that is to allow that tomato puree to really cook out and to really go a kind of nice deep brick colour. That's what we're looking for. Now we need to pull that tasty, delicious fond off the bottom of the pan and make sure all that flavour gets incorporated back into the ragu. We've got 250 ml of white wine, and we're going to go straight in with that. Red wine can be quite overpowering, and the white wine's just a bit more placid, sits at the back a little bit, watching. So at this point as well, once the booze has gone in, we can crank up the heat a little bit more. We never, ever really want this up to full maximum heat. Okay, so our wine has reduced right down to this kind of, pan is clean on the base, because all that fond has been pulled off by all that booze. And we're going to go in with 90 grams of whole milk. Say what? Didn't expect that, did you? Or maybe you did, I don't know. Milk's quite traditional in Italian ragus, and it adds like such a really nice rich flavour to the finished meat. It kind of protects the meat during the cooking as well, so you keep it nice and tender, nice and beautiful. And we just want to cook that milk down for kind of 4 or 5 minutes, just so we get the paste appearance again. We've got 1 400-gram tin of San Marzano peeled plum tomatoes. Avoid using chopped tomatoes if you can. Try and get peeled plum tomatoes. They tend to have less water in. And just start breaking them up a little bit with your spoon. Next up, you want to add some water or some stock. We're going to go with water, and we're just going to kind of half fill this tin of tomatoes and add that. But we have some fresh basil and some parmesan rind, because this is going to sit in there for 2 hours. All that gooey cheese is going to kind of melt out. All that umami flavour that we get from parmesan is going to go into our ragu, making it the best ragu. The reason we put these in late is that they're just going to kind of perfume the sauce. Now we wait for at least kind of 1.5 to 2 hours. You know, if you wait a bit longer, kind of 3 to 4 hours, you're going to get more flavour. You might find you need to top up with water or stock during that cooking process. You have to remember, as it reduces, the salt is going to kind of come to the forefront a little bit more. So it's better to kind of wait now, season towards the end. So our ragu has been simmering away for 2 and a bit hours, and it smells incredible, looks great. So now we can chill it down, ready to stick into some calzones. So the only other thing to do now is to remove those basil sprigs. Some of the leaves that might have broken off, they can kind of stay in really. And somewhere in amongst this will be our parmesan rind. And that ragu now is just jam-packed, full of flavour, full of umami goodness. Give it a little taste. Remember, it's going to be very, very hot, swearingly good. We're going to chill this down, we're going to get some dough ready, and we're going to make some calzones. All right. So our ragu is chilled down, ready to go. Our dough balls have been sat at room temperature just to let the gluten relax. So this dough is our standard kind of Neapolitan dough recipe. If you have a look on the YouTube channel, you'll find loads of different dough recipes. There's a real simple, quick one that can be ready in 6 hours. So normally when we open Neapolitan pizza, we're kind of migrating the air to the crust, but we're not as fussed about that really. We just want this to be flat. So the word calzone originates from the word stocking or trouser. And that's believed it's because you could walk around with a calzone and, you know, have it on the hoof. And also that maybe it looks a bit like a stocking and we're filling it like you would a stocking at Christmas. And you know, you could fill this with whatever you wanted. It's the same technique in terms of folding it. But honestly, the ragu with this dough is just incredible. So if you remember, we added the basil to the ragu when we were making it, so it's really nicely perfumed with these flavours anyway, and this just kind of brings them to the forefront a bit more. And then we've got some mozzarella. This is fior di latte, but you could use, you know, if you've got buffalo, that should be fine. Just make sure it's kind of patted dry before it goes in. So now the technique for making these is super straightforward, super easy. We're just going to pull it over towards ourselves, press the filling down. You'll see how airy it is there, so just give it a lift up again, let that air out. But we're going to use this just to kind of crimp the edges. So we're just going to all the way around, and then we're going to use the other end of the pizza wheel just to kind of trim this off, trim off the excess. So just come round up to your crimping. And then, very important, the top of the calzone, we're going to give it a little pierce. So these are steam holes. These are really important. These are going to let the steam out and mean that the calzone kind of keeps its shape and doesn't end up ballooning up massively. A little dusting of flour. And we're going to pull the calzone on. We're going to kind of lift it on, I'm not going to pull it on. And just straight over to Roccbox. So Roccbox is running at around about 350 degrees Celsius, which is kind of just over 600 Fahrenheit. That's the sort of mark we want, because we want to bake this for about 2.5 minutes in total. And you can see I'm baking it in the front third of the oven. That's to ensure we don't get too much fierce flame heat, charring the outside before the inside is cooked. So there is something that will change your life. That is a ragu calzone or a ragu calzone. I don't know which. So it'll be a bit crispier than a Neapolitan pizza rather than that soft, squishy crust. You can see it's quite crispy. So now, while it's still warm, we're just going to sprinkle over a little grated parmesan. We open him up. Is it cooked? I can't see. So these guys are normally eaten on the move, but this is just packed full of like molten ragu and cheese. So I'd go knife and fork unless you're feeling really brave. So knife, fork, get a normal size fork. No one wants a cake fork, it's ridiculous. Look at that. Christ alive! That's the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. Fact. So for this recipe and any other recipes you've seen on our YouTube channel, head to Gozney.com, pick up a Roccbox so you can make this at home and get stuck in. And you can see I'm baking it in the front third of Roccbox, so I'm not getting too much fierce flame. Too much fierce?